Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. I'm in my really creepy basement doing laundry, so I thought I'd just look at a Hiroshige book to make this creepy basement feel more pretty. And then over there, okay. I'm getting sensitive because Ethan Van Sciver has just left Twitter. I don't know exactly what the circumstances are for his decision to leave, but if I would have to guess, it would have something to do with very unprofessional reporters for The Atlantic hinting at the idea of publishing a hit piece on Ethan Van Sciver in The Atlantic, which would be a major publication, as well as numerous SJW trolls on Twitter harassing him and slandering him as a Nazi continually. So whatever his reasoning for leaving, I understand that he probably wants to do it to protect his family from just getting blowback from these weirdos online. And this is causing me to think a lot about what this means for us and what we could do going forward. Not just for people who use the Comicsgate hashtag, but for all fans of comics, all fans of Ethan Van Sciver, because I'm a little hot under the collar. I was planning to go home and make a podcast on this and write a script, but I am just ticked, and I need to talk about it. So I've actually made bullet points on an envelope to keep me straight, because there's a few things I think that I've learned from just paying attention to Gamergate in the past, and I think we need to get focused. So who's we? Is Comicsgate a movement? Is Comicsgate a united front with a shared set of goals and principles? No, it's a hashtag that people with shared interest in comics use to discuss comics and discuss the quality of their comic books. That's all I see the hashtag Comicsgate as, and I think people are rightfully skeptical about joining a movement or getting with a group because they recognize that groupthink can affect more than just a little group of SJWs on the internet. You could be in a religion and be subject to groupthink. You could be Steven Universe fan artists and Tumblr and start having groupthink. You could be a group of conservatives or libertarians and be subject to groupthink. So I guess the theme of this video is how to oppose SJWs without becoming SJWs. How do we stand in opposition to their politics and what they're trying to do in the comics industry without becoming everything we hate about this little clique of people who abuse and berate people online to try to make their political agenda omnipresent in all forms of entertainment. They want their agenda in video games, they want their agenda in movies, they want their agenda in comic books. So, what can we do? The first thought I had is, well, there's two types of SJWs. There are the open SJWs who essentially live their lives on Twitter. They are always on Twitter, they're always tweeting, they're always participating in call-out culture, they're always saying Nazi, 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 harasser, harasser, harasser. And then there's a second group which is a little bit more devious, which is low-key SJWs. These are people who don't want to be seen as being toxic. They don't want to be seen screaming about Republicans and calling Republican fans Nazis or insulting their coworkers. But they are okay if other people do that. And this might take the form of pros retweeting or celebrating the SJW trolls who go around doing this type of thing. The Diversity in Comics channel has done several videos documenting this, showing screenshots of the tweets of comics book industry professionals, well-known names, celebrating and giving the thumbs up to people who made a habit of just going around on everyone's timeline yelling Nazi, Nazi, Nazi at everyone and everything they could get their hands on. And both are a problem, but what do? Do you come right back and scream, well, you're a Nazi, 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 you're a racist, 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 you dox us, we're going to dox you? No. What I'm advocating for is to not fight fire with fire and to not become everything you hate that you see SJWs doing, which is hard because there's this desire for revenge. So I guess that leads into the second thing. Are we in a culture war? In my video addressed to Comicstorian, I used the phrase comic culture war, partially in response to him using the phrase fight for comics culture, and it was just sort of a natural use of language to talk about the idea that he put forward. And the problem with a phrase like culture war is that could be misinterpreted. If I say we're in the middle of a comics culture war, someone might take that to mean that I want you to go out and fight people and beat people up and find all their secret private information and dump that because we're in a war and we got to win the war. And I want to caution against that. I think it's okay to say we're in a culture war in the sense that this is a defensive war. We were sitting here minding our own business, reading comic books or talking about art and stories, and then a group of, I think, disturbed people started calling us all Nazis, or calling us all racist, or calling us all sexist, because we would talk about things like how we aren't a big fan of Thor being replaced with a woman and her being named Thor. It's not like she took the handle of Mjolnir and took the place of Thor. She took the name of Thor, even though that was, and if you think something like that's a bit silly, well, you must be sexist. You must have a problem with female characters. I see. My point is that I think a lot of people are understandably uncomfortable with terms like culture war, or talking about the culture, or talking about the politics or the philosophy. They just want good comics. They just want good stories. Can't we just focus on that? And they have a point, because one of the whole points of this entertainment is it's supposed to be a bit of escapism. It's supposed to give people of different political positions something shared that they could love. So you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. Well, we both like Captain America. Don't we have something in common? And I see SJWs as trying to take this away from people, as trying to polarize these art forms to push their view of the world and the queering of culture. They want all of their beliefs and ideas within these books for kids, because they want to have an effect on the next generation. They want to build towards a society. The personal is political. It's a slogan, it's a truism that leftists share around, and it means there's nothing in your personal life that they don't see as politically significant. They want everything in your personal life to change to reflect their politics. I think that's what the bumper sticker means. I don't know of any other way to interpret the personal is political, apart from trying to make people change their personal lives to reflect what they believe about politics. So I don't want us fighting an offensive war, where we destroy them, or we get revenge on them, or we do every bad thing to them that they do to us. But I do believe there's merit to saying, let's have a defensive war, where if they come after us, that doesn't mean we go after them and get revenge and do all the bad things to them. But we guard ourselves and we protect ourselves. Do things like guard information that you don't want shared around. Do things like take screenshots of the conversations you have and archive those so no one can accuse you of faking those screenshots. I guess that leads beautifully into my next point. So the illustration I had of someone getting a culture warrior mindset is Crouten T, who was a YouTube skeptic guy, rationalist skeptic community guy. And he got in trouble for starting a Discord where he was gathering private information on people in the alt-right. They had all these little plans for how to deceive people and manipulate people into fighting the alt-right for them. And this all came out, and he left the internet in disgrace pretty much, because he'd become like an SJW. SJWs, people hated them because they were doxing people and sharing private information and contacting employers, trying to get people fired. And Kraut was doing some of that to people he didn't like. And Mr. Mediker covered this because he's some kind of god at finding out all this crazy secret information on the internet. So Crouten T became everything that he hated and left the internet in disgrace. So I used the illustration of Crouten T because it might get really easy to get animated and upset at people who have been hounding artists you like, or have been hounding writers you like, or maybe hounding you personally. But you can't give in to them. And they want you to take the bait, become angry, get feisty, and do bad things to them, because then they get to turn right around and say, see, look at these horrible Comicsgate people. Look at all the terrible things they're doing. Look, they're doxing people. Look, they're harassing people. Isn't this terrible? Mainstream media, we got to stop this bullying hate mob. So my point is, we can't. It stinks because it seems to be there's a double standard where we always have to be polite and they're always rude and nasty to us, and it feel good to be rude and nasty right back to them. But we can't give them weapons to use against us. You have to keep your cool and know enough about yourself to know whether you can keep your cool in a conversation where someone's really getting on your case and really getting petty and personal. Are you the type who can just let that bounce off you, or are you the type who might lose your temper, say a bunch of things, say a bunch of slurs, and then boom, they've got you forever now. Now they've got the evidence of you being a bully online, and they'll always hang that around your neck. So this kind of leads well into my next point. So one of the things that people always make fun of about social justice warriors is that they're on Twitter tweeting about things that don't really matter, like Oscar's so white, and they're so self-important. They feel like they think they're fighting for social justice. They think they're changing the world and fixing all of life's social ills, but all they're really doing is complaining on their iPhone on Twitter about little cultural things that don't matter too much, like the racial percentages in some movie or some comic book. But the thing I'm thinking about is it'd be wrong if having a military mindset means going after people and destroying people and trying to destroy their lives over comic books or entertainment. That's wrong. Don't do that. But there are positive traits to having a military mindset. You go to boot camp to teach you not to be a little crybaby, to toughen you up physically, mentally. So when I'm saying have a military mindset, I don't mean go destroy people and treat this like a war and try to wreck people's lives because you disagree with them or because they're SJWs and that means everything goes. What I'm saying is have a military mindset in the sense that you want to be a bit disciplined, you want to be focused, you kind of want to train yourself so that if someone comes after you, you don't bounce right back and insult them or say something that you'd regret later or something you'd be embarrassed to have come out about you. Take on the positive attributes that soldiers have, and that they have to be disciplined and focused in what they do, and treat that in how you engage in conversation. So if a conversation is about Ethan Van Sciver and whether Ethan Van Sciver's a Nazi or not, don't let them hijack the conversation. Don't let them get you upset and derail the conversation. Stay focused on the facts. Attack ideas, not people. So I use the phrase culture war, and now that I've kind of defined what I mean, because I don't want people to misinterpret that, if engaging in a culture war means going after ideas and not people, then I'm all for it. I am all for looking at ideas, thinking if they're true or not, investigating the claims of people on the left, putting that under scrutiny, asking, is that true? And if it's not true, I'm all for arguing against that idea and destroying that idea. Ben Shapiro gives this advice to traditional conservatives going into debates. Don't go into the debate with the purpose of being perceived as nice and friendly. Go into the debate with the purpose of making your case based on facts and embarrassing your opponent when they lie or when they call you a Nazi or when they call you a sexist. Come back and argue based on the facts and wreck their case. So to sum that point, don't attack people. Don't go after people and dox them and seek out private information. Don't even harangue them. Don't even talk to them if you don't think it could be fruitful. Ignore them. Mute them if that helps you. But go after the ideas. Go after the philosophy and the set of values that motivate SJWs to want to do this, to go online and creep on people and collect this information and whine to employers and try to get popular and kind artists like Ethan Van Sciver banned off of Twitter, and they want him off of DC Comics. They see kicking Ethan Van Sciver off of Twitter as a win for them. It is a little win for them, but they want every Republican or conservative out of the comic book industry. Mark my words. And they don't care about comics. They don't care about reading them. They don't care about these characters or these stories or the art. They want power. What does that lead into? I'm sad. I'm sad because young artists and young comic book fans have now been deprived of the opportunity of going to talk to Ethan Van Sciver on Twitter. They can still go watch his videos and benefit from his videos, but these same SJWs want to take down Ethan Van Sciver's YouTube channel. They could go enjoy Ethan Van Sciver's comic books, but this same group of people wants Ethan Van Sciver kicked out of DC. They want to destroy his life because of what he believes and because of of the political positions he's expressed. And they're never going to rest because this is their life. Destroying people they don't like is their life. So they see this as a victory. I see this as a loss for all kinds of comic book fans. If you're a comic book fan on the left or the right, Ethan Van Sciver being chased off of Twitter, where he was mostly engaging fans positively and showing beautiful pictures of his art, that is a loss. It's a lot. I understand why he did it, but it's also a loss in that if someone now says, Ethan Van Sciver, he was a bully, he used his Twitter to bully people, well, now that he's deleted it, the rabbit trail is gone. You can't go to Ethan Van Sciver's Twitter now and see what a nice, friendly teddy bear he is. Now when they go to the mainstream media or when they go to the Atlantic and say, oh, these Republican comic book artists, they're harassers, they're abusers. If you delete your Twitter, you've deleted the evidence of you not being that, of you being a friendly and winsome guy who talks about art and who talks about comic books. So yes, this was a win for the SJWs today. So this is my final advice of what I've learned looking back at Gamergate. It's okay to take a break from the internet. If you're getting too animated, if you're losing your temper, if you're feeling sad, take a break and go outside, go be with family, go hang out with some friends. Don't live your life on Twitter if you don't want to become an SJW. Be careful about what you say and who you say it to. Be aware that there have been people, ages ago, people were creeping around with multiple accounts, trying to document everything, creepily liking things and screenshotting conversations. And this person I'm referring to deleted he was pretending to be a girl. He deleted his YouTube. He deleted most of his Twitters. And if that hasn't been documented, the rabbit trail is gone. If he comes back and says, oh, I was harassed, well, do we have evidence? Can we prove that this was the harasser who was harassing all of us? So that's my final point. Document, because you can't trust any newspaper to do it for you. Screenshot every conversation you have with a pro that gets the least bit salty. Don't just use screenshots, but archive everything you can. So I guess this is my final point. I have archived a few articles that I think are relevant to the Comicsgate hashtag, hit pieces from Bleeding Cool and Capeless Crusaders, which published articles by one of the harassers. And I've realized that's not enough. It's not enough for me to just archive it and forget about it. I've got to make that available to people so that if they want to go read these articles or if these hit pieces get deleted later, people need to be able to go back and see what was written and see what was said. And this is something positive that I learned from Gamergate, is that they did a really good job documenting their interactions with people and documenting the SJWs who were screaming harassment. They documented examples of the SJWs harassing people in the Gamergate hashtag and professional games people, conservatives in the gaming industry. We have to document this stuff because eventually the mainstream media is going to pay attention to this conversation because we're talking about iconic all-American characters who have big budget movies based on them. Right now, we're a small little group. Right now, we're mostly beneath the notice of the mainstream media. The Atlantic digging into Ethan Van Sciver, I think, is the first little salvo of mainstream media attention coming to us. Ian Miles Chong for the Daily Caller is paying attention to the abuse of Ethan Van Sciver. More mainstream people who are not comic book geeks are going to start paying attention to this conversation, and when the scrutiny comes, when the smart Alex fake news journalists with tendentious questions and an agenda come to write hit pieces, we need to be our own journalists and record our interactions with people so that they can't lie about us. So I'm doing some of this just on my own. If you have done I have had some people communicate with me in private messages, showing me archiving they've been done, and this is good. This is important. If you are doing something like this on your own, chat with me. Don't chat with me here. Email me at no1marmaduke@gmail.com so we can start talking about how to coordinate our efforts and have a place like a Google Doc people can go to document instances of SJWs harassing, berating, and bullying us. We need the screenshots, we need the archives, and we need to be careful and disciplined so that we don't give other people ammunition to use against us. Because you know full well, no matter how much you say, just because you use the Comicsgate hashtag, that doesn't mean you're a comic skater. You don't agree with all these people. You might be on the left and say, I don't have anything to do with these conservatives who like Trump. I understand that, but what you have to understand is the SJW mindset is going to tar and feather you so long as you are not an SJW. You could be on the far left in your politics. SJWs will tar and feather you and call you a Nazi if you are not an SJW, if you are the least bit normal. So this is partially a note for myself and what I can do going forward, but if you are doing things like this, documenting your conversations, I'm not saying dox people, I'm not saying go after their private information, I am saying document conversations that you have in public with these people, so that if they try to lie and say, these comic skaters were harassing us, these comic skaters were bullying us, we need to point people to the evidence to show that we are not doing anything wrong. Hashtag Ethan Sciver. Ethan Van Sciver did nothing wrong. We need to start getting our sheets in order. Even, I'm not asking you to join a movement or sign a placard or say you're a conservative. I'm asking everyone to pitch in on making sure that we look out for each other and we don't let politically tendentious people lie about us and tar and feather us, because you know they want to, and it's only going to get worse the more effect we have on the industry. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys, and I'll catch you later.